Okay. Hi, Azima. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Good to see
Good.
you.
Good to see you here and good to be able to have this conversation during Women's Month.
I
I think it should be
know.
all year, but anyway. So let's get started with, social inclusion. So in
Yeah.
what way do you think digitization will help increase social inclusion and economic empowerment of otherwise marginalized groups in Pakistan?
Of course, I think that, for social inclusion of marginalized groups, especially persons with disabilities who we work very closely with, I feel digitization has not only been a very wonderful idea, but um, in practicality, we have seen the impact of it from, starting from persons with disabilities being able to work from home due to digitization, and now they can, get better job opportunities without having mobilization being a big issue. Other than that, when you talk about accessibility and accessible technology, you see a lot of visually impaired people using computer-based softwares as JAWS, as a screen reading component through which they have been able to give their own examinations, they have been able to get jobs as call center operators, and we on the other end don't even know that the operator is visually impaired or not. So we have seen that the kind of impacts digitization has created. And then, of course, there's the ConnectHear mobile application that has proven to provide sign language interpretation online, virtually, remotely to a lot of deaf people, not only in Pakistan, but, other countries as well, where whenever they need to communicate in order to be able to talk to the doctor or give their interviews independently or make a phone call to, book an ambulance, ask an ambulance to come, so much that they can do independently now because there's a technology on their phones making them independent and able to do tasks just like other hearing people are. So definitely I think technology and digitization just removes that gap that we see in our society with marginalized group and give them an opportunity to be part of our equal economy, and I think that's just wonderful and beautiful.
And have you seen the uptake of the ConnectHear app to spread far and wide? I hear that it is now in several countries outside Pakistan as well.
Yeah, Jahan, it's so mesmerizing. So we right now ConnectHear application has been downloaded in 106 countries. So
Wow.
that's the presence right now, and we have users like regular users from about I don't know 9 to 10 countries that we recently posted about as well. And this is and not only that, we are actually getting calls from such people. Our interpreters recently interpreted a banking case in India, and when that happened, that showed that it's a global issue and people want solution for it. And we are lucky that ConnectHear is being able to facilitate everyone with communication ease. The mission we started with.
Okay. I know that's terrific. And it's very exciting as well because it wasn't easy to begin and to get people to accept that this could be done. But now that you have done it, the acceptance is extremely important for you to continue. So tell me, what do you think are the biggest obstacles in seeing substantial change in the availability of opportunities to persons with disabilities?
I think that when we talk about including a marginalized group in your normal setting, it requires design change. You can't expect that the way things are, it would remain the same and marginalized group would be able to, be a part of it. You need to bring some changes and you need to accept that these changes are not that difficult. So I think at times, people are fearful to commit to something and not being able to do it, or the extra money or efforts they need to put into it to see the impact. But then I always say this because now we work with a lot of banks, so I always tell them that it's 15% persons with disabilities who you are missing out on as not only your employees but as your clients as well. So it's a win-win situation on both ends. And today we stand in a world where we can see that the money put in and the efforts put in towards the marginalized group will bring you a lot of returns at the end of the day. So people need to look at substantial accessibility change as not only like a goodwill activity, but also from like a win-win situation where we are making our all our citizens come towards, the same level, and we don't have to rely on charities as much if they'll get better opportunities in life as well. So we need to look at from that lens, and
Yeah,
that's what I keep on telling
the
people.
country's digital journey also gets better, right? It's if it's all
Yeah.
inclusive, and that means people with disabilities. That means people in rural areas, in smaller towns. Everything needs to change. So we need to create opportunities. We shouldn't just look at it with one sort of lens. So
Yeah,
tell me,
definitely.
let's sort of flip and find out about you. So you're a young founder, and you started several years ago. So you were much younger then. How's it been being a young founder, and how has that affected your journey as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think I'm not gonna lie. I always tell people that being a women entrepreneur has its own challenges, but being a young entrepreneur is a journey on its own. Because, when you start on it, when we started, we all were 19 years old. Of course, Jahan knows that because, it wasn't like you're the one who were like, this is the space, start working in it. Until then, we didn't think people would take us seriously. A lot of people actually thought that ConnectHear was a summer project that we did out of passion, and it's not going to be something that's sustainable, or we're going to create big waves through it. So number one challenge was to prove the concept to people, because we realized very very immediately that not our words are not only going to be a part of the game. We have to prove everything that we are doing regardless of our age. A lot of the times we didn't used to tell people the age. I would like dress and walk and talk like an older person so nobody judges me based on my age, because that's the reality. Currently I conduct trainings, I meet with people who have 40-45 years of experiences, and for them to judge us beyond our age group is always very important. So I think number one challenge was for people to take us seriously. Number two was them understanding that we can manage work alongside our studies, that we were initially doing it part time. So it was a lot of persistence, a lot of actions that spoke for itself, and we didn't have to budge on it again and again. And then, thirdly, as a young entrepreneur, working with not only partners but with teams is also a challenge, because you're hiring people who are similar age group as you. How do you define the boundary? How do you work in a way that everyone's respecting each other and everyone's growing, and everyone's motivated? So having that balance in your mind is also very, very important. And Alhamdulillah, it has been a grateful journey. I'm also not going to forget the fact that being a young entrepreneur also brought a lot of, competitions, grant opportunities towards our side. So I'm grateful and lucky that at that time there were a lot of organizations focusing on young entrepreneurs as well. So all in all, it was challenging, but our actions could prove the work. And I think any young entrepreneur out there, you need to show that you are more than just your age, and that's when people are going to listen to you.
But do you have to then work on yourself as well, your leadership skills, your ability to hire, your ability to be serious when you need to include everyone, all of that? Does it take a lot of effort, a lot of time, and do you have to focus on it?
Definitely. I think it starts from a lot of compromises, because us as young, people in university, we are looking at our peers living life in a different way, where they are, going out on weekends, or they are more like, they're always having fun, but you need to have a balance between having fun and being serious, prioritizing your time schedule, and then also inspiring your team members that if I, as a young person, can manage my time and my work, you can do it as well. So you need to have a different personality. I think every time my friends see me taking up, work calls, they're like, this does not sound like you at all, because you're like a completely different person, but you have to bring that in you. Definitely.
So, Azima, now, I mean, several years into the game, we see you working with the Sindh government, meeting with the chief minister, also working with a lot of banks. Now that banks have also recognized that there is a need for this. So, how has that experience been? And have some of the changes been as you expected? And is it motivating? I think, there's been a major shift. So, can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, I think so. I always say this that 4.5 years ago, when we started ConnectHear, there was barely any talks about, accessibility or a startup taking on technology to create access for persons with disability. There wasn't really a market for it when we started, so we had to create a lot of awareness. Meanwhile, we were providing service. It wasn't like we were the next ride hailing or food delivery technology or solution that came in the market and everybody knew about it. We had to create a lot of awareness, and all the people we are working with today are the people we went to 4 years ago as well. But for them to understand it was also a challenge. But Alhamdulillah, I say that after 4.5 years, it's not only that we are creating awareness, but people are approaching us and they have realized the importance of it. State Bank of Pakistan issued the most progressive notification for persons with disability in all of South Asia, that has motivated all of the banks to take it seriously. And it is, I think, humbling to see banks reaching out to us and willing to work with us, willing to test out different ideas. And the experience has been wonderful because, we were one-sided thinking about how it will work out with our partners, but now learning and teaching each other and adjusting our technology and our services as per their way of working. It is actually very, very exciting. And even with the government, I think, the Sindh government has been very, very approachable. The federal government as well. They have been working for persons with disabilities. So it feels really nice when, they call us up and they're like, we need interpreters because we have deaf audience. And that didn't used to have 4 years ago. Deaf audience used to sit and not understand what's going. But now we recently interpreted for the First Lady. Just 2 days ago, we interpreted for the President of Pakistan, and they all appreciate it, recognize it. The First Lady team has our number. Whenever they need interpretation, they call us up. So it's just great to see that what we were vocalized about, we used to be so vocal about. Now they have understood it themselves, and they are the ones approaching us. That's the change, which is amazing.
That's great. It's so good to hear. So tell me, you're also part of the Kamyab Jawan program and the National Youth Council. What has that experience been like, and what do you think personally you've been able to contribute, and what more can young people do? Because it's great to see the involvement of young people in things that are happening led by government, but also the ideas from the young, because it's your lives that all of us are sort of trying to claim that we know the solutions to. So to involve young people, it's amazing that the government has done that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Prime Minister's National Youth Council under Kamyab Jawan program is completely focused towards bringing youth from all part of the country, jahan, like even the smaller parts, bigger parts, not only cities, together on one platform where we are talking and we're working on the policies. We are forwarding our issues, and it has worked out so wonderfully. Like I had no experience being involved so closely with the government or with policymakers, but now I have gotten an opportunity to represent not only the youth in Sindh, in Karachi, but also the youth I'm working for, like persons with disabilities who are normally missed out on. Like when you talk about policy making, marginalized people are always mostly forgotten. So we in fact had a group dedicated towards policy for marginalized youth, and it had me, it had another person with disability, we had a person representing the rural community, we had a transgender as a part of that group. So all of the marginalized group came together and we worked on that policy that has already been put forward to the Senate and to the other policy makers. And the next council that is going to come, inshallah, is going to work on the practicality of these policies as well. And the best part is that the policy does not have vague ideas, it has literal ideas, because we have worked for these people and we came up with these ideas and we're like ye hona chahiye. So it's about bringing the right stakeholders together to write and talk about it. So it is very empowering. I'm just waiting to see once it starts getting deployed, all the ideas we have talked about. I think that would be even more amazing. And I hope that we did justice to it's a responsibility now. So I hope that we did justice to all the youth of our country.
I'm sure, and it's a continuous journey. You may have come up with some
Yes.
ideas. Some other people will join the council and may come up with new ideas. So it's a constant journey. So tell
Yeah.
me, how do you also engage people with hearing disabilities in your programs? Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because that is so amazing to see, because they're empowered and they seem to be having so much fun trying to create new things and new activities for other people like themselves, and maybe for the public in general, because it's not restricted to only people with hearing disabilities, right?
Yeah, I think
And some of your
so.
team members are from the deaf community, right?
Yes, and I think that just helps us out so much. So you're right, so what we thought about was that, and something that came from my heart was that I always saw my parents who are deaf themselves missing out on so many activities that were happening around just because, they'll be like, hum jayenge to sahi, but we won't understand what's going on. So that's why when we were approached to do, like a concert that you attended as well, when we were approached to make that concert accessible, I was like, why not? It's a concept that has never happened in Pakistan. And for the first time, we partnered up with Strings Band in Habib University, and we did a concert where we showed that, by having a sign language interpreter on stage and lights adjusted to the music, you can make any event or any concert accessible. And you were there yourself, and we always talk about how you couldn't tell in that audience who was deaf and who wasn't deaf because everyone was enjoying music together. And that was the kind of, example and impact that we wanted to create and show. And then we
But
did
how did you
multiple.
come up with that idea? Like, if you tell someone that, we're having a concert for the deaf, they'll say, are you crazy? They can't hear. What are what you're talking about? So how did that idea come to pass?
यार हाँ एब्सोल्युटली सबने इंस्टाग्राम पे यही लिखा था कि ये कैसी फिजूल बात है लाइक हाउ इज इट पॉसिबल बट द आइडिया केम बिकॉज आई यूज्ड टू वॉच अ लॉट ऑफ इंटरनेशनल कॉन्सर्ट्स happening and having interpreters and deaf people posting about it internationally. So I was like, अगर पूरी दुनिया में हो सकता है, there's nothing that's stopping it from happening in Pakistan. So I think that's where the idea came from, and we took the first opportunity thrown at us for it. And once that happened, Jahan, the best thing is that, Forbes covered it, a lot of international and national channels covered it. And then it started happening more and more. So people started doing it on their own. Jitne bhi universities the, they started thinking about, oh, we are having a concert, we need to have interpreters. And they would just contact us to hire interpreters rather being like, आप हमें बताएं कैसे करना है, because now they know कैसे करना है because example has already been set. So doing these events, we did a theater competition. We made multiple MUNs accessible. And just yesterday, for 2 days, we had Munich going on, which is MUN at IPA. And again, they did it on their own. They told us that we want to call in deaf people. Please provide us with interpreters. And they made sure that it was entirely accessible. And they were able to do it because an example of such has already been set in the past. So all in all, to answer your question, the reason why we have such faith in doing big events is that number one, it shows people how it is done. Number two, it challenges people कि अगर आपकी जगह accessible नहीं है, ये आपकी गलती है, because हो सकता है. And number three, it just involves the deaf community so much, like deaf people now go to events and demand for interpreters because they
Very.
know it's their right, and it's not like somebody is doing it out of favor. So that's the kind of change that's very impactful and gets us full of energy.
And you and your team also train others to become interpreters, right? Because you need
Absolutely.
more and more as people start adopting it. How do you go about that? How many people have you trained? And what is the average age of the person you train? Is there a younger limit and older limit? It would be interesting to know.
Yeah, nahi, Jahan, we would love to have you in one of our classes soon. I would love to teach you sign language khud se.
I'm a
But
bad student. You might find it
I
very
highly doubt
challenging.
it. I highly doubt it. So
I'll
basically,
come. Next time you have a class, tell me.
this is going online, so everyone's listening to this, and everyone's my evidence in my audience. But yeah, Jahan, pata hai, we have had students taking our classes from age young as 8 years old to
Wow.
an uncle who was 72 years old, and he was taking the sign language classes because his grandson is deaf and he wanted to be able to talk to the grandson. So for our regular classes, the age group really differs. We have all, backgrounds, all age group. When we talk about professional interpreters, that's a more responsible job, because we never provide interpreters who are half trained or who don't have the training of the ethical know-hows of what an interpreter is, the rule of confidentiality वगैरह. तो हमारी proper certification और training होती है. Last year we did a training with 60 people, और 60 लोगों में से we had about 20 to 25 people who actually became certified interpreters and who were skilled enough to be able to go out in public and support other. And now we're starting another batch, and now we're focused towards more people who have background in sign language, like myself, who have deaf parents, deaf family members, because we naturally know sign language. It's all about just polishing it and then training them into interpreter ethics. So we are now looking out for such people so we can increase our army of professional certified people. And I keep on telling this, that not everyone is an interpreter. हर कोई जो sign language कर रहा है हमें बहुत अच्छा लगता है, but we never realize कि क्या वो सही तरीके से interpret कर रहे हैं या नहीं कर रहे. It looks good on TV, they get popularity, but the deaf community, they don't benefit out of it. So that's something ConnectHear is very, very particular about. Maybe I, because of my parents, but I really want every one of us to understand it. Or if we hire an interpreter, ask them for their certification so that we know we're hiring the right resource. It's very important.
And so give us some examples of what else you've done in terms of, I think, even during the elections and at other times you have provided services or created content. Give us some details on that as well.
Yeah, so ConnectHear has created a lot of milestone in our country. We did the first ever deaf concert, deaf theater competition that was attended by 1,200 people, and it
Wow.
went crazy. And then during elections, we kind of realized that, election news is so important. So we went live with interpretation, and we partnered with Geo News, which is one of the, largest television provision service providers. And other than that, ConnectHear has been also providing interpretation services to not only Pakistan-based organization but international as well. We interpret online live webinars. We interpret for major companies when they want to hire people for their interviews, for their onboarding. We have already deployed our application in one of the banks where they're using the app to be able to communicate with their employees and as well as walk-in deaf customers. So ConnectHear has been able to solve, every piece of the communication or information gap that there exists. We have a very active YouTube channel that you all need to watch. We make news and entertainment videos in sign language, and we are after the government and everyone to be able to have sign language interpreters for press conferences. So we have done it for the CM, for for President, for First Lady, and we're just hopeful that it comes on television very soon with us as well. So these are the kind of work that we have already done. I can't cover it all, but you guys need to look up our social media. And if there's anything else, Jahan, I also always say, if there's anyone who would like to partner with us in any capacity, we're always happy to facilitate. We are aiming to, even do it for Aurat Mart. So inshallah,
Oh, wow.
we'll make sure deaf women can also participate in it. So every place can be made accessible, and we're looking forward to that.
So, Azima, in the last 4.5 years, as your parents have seen you go through this journey and create ConnectHear, I'm sure initially they didn't realize what you were doing. But what has their reaction been over the years to what you've done and how much you've accomplished?
I think, yeah, I mean, they are my inspiration for starting this all. And I am so, so grateful and so glad that they're such great supporters of the idea. And in the beginning, Jahan, because I was studying and working alongside, I didn't used to get any time to talk to them. So they always used to complain कि हमारे लिए शुरू किया है, but you don't talk to us anymore, and now you're talking to millions of people, but not us. Though of course, it was challenging for them to see me so busy, and they would always worry because I was young, and they're like, "इतनी छोटी उम्र में, you're always stressed and you're always working and you need to relax." So of course, from the parents' angle, they're worried about my mental health and my physical health. But of course, they are very, very proud and grateful, and our biggest supporters, my mama daddy, are the marketing people कि हम कोई भी काम करते हैं, they're the ones sharing it in the deaf community, or getting, and they're also like, they get happy and sad with me whenever we have downfalls. They're there. My mama, she understands, she knows everything. So even if I'm like ye masla hua hai, so she knows the complete background and she knows what solution to give. So I think they have been an important part of this journey, and as much the credit goes to ConnectHear team, the credit goes to my parents as well, and they are very proud. Shukar.
Yeah, I'm so glad, and I'm sure they must be. Tell me, Azima, you've used technology to help solve the problem of inclusivity for people who are deaf. Where else do you think technology can be better utilized to help people with other kinds of disabilities?
Yeah, I think सबसे पहली चीज तो जहाँ वही बात दोबारा कि technology can help people if it's helping them out to, number one, earn and have a better quality of life. So that's it. That is key. COVID proved to us that work from home concepts can work. So if we invest more on that, that would be really helpful for girls who can't leave their homes to work, but they're very talented. So ये number one cheese है where we need to focus. And the second technological solution is, and something that the ecosystem is working towards, is more educational opportunities. So even if there are marginalized group who are not allowed to leave their homes, but they have internet, or they have a computer or device their parents own, them having resources to educate themselves, even traditionally or even skill based, that is also very, very helpful. And third would be from a more business point of view कि agar technology can enable people, or enable women, or enable youngsters to sell their products online or have online marketplaces, that is still very much needed and something we need to invest in. It can never be an outdated concept. Like, I hate when people are like, "Ye ho chuka hai, it's nothing new." It has brought a lot of change, and it can help the upcoming generation as well in a huge, huge manner. So, these three areas where we need to look at it.
Okay. So now that you've worked on a social enterprise, what are the challenges that you've seen, and what do you think needs to change in terms of the traditional business mindsets? Is there something new that needs to be done for social enterprises? Are there things that other people can do to support social enterprises? Because, in the beginning, it's tough because people
Yeah,
don't think you'll make money. As you said, they think it's a passion and, never
yeah.
going to be commercially viable and all of that. So, talk a little bit about that. I think people should hear what you have to say and what you've learned through the last 4.5 years.
या डेफिनेटली आई थिंक कि लोगों को हमेशा लगता है कि बिजनेस करने के दो तरीके हैं, या तो आप एक कमर्शियल बिजनेस है और यूर एन एनजीओ. दे नेवर थिंक दैट देयर कुड बी आइडियाज दैट आर फोकस्ड ऑन सोशल impact, but they are in the middle and they are making money and making impact as well. A lot of the times people always tell us that, why do you charge for your services? It's a good cause and you should do it for free, or you should do it for, like, better of the good. They need to understand that yes, we do provide a lot of services, for no cost for our target groups, for the deaf community. But then for other commercial groups who are benefiting out of it, who are increasing their customer base based on our service, that's a solid social enterprise earning case. We are giving you more customers, we are helping you make more money, and in return, you give us some piece of that cake. That's the entire idea of a social enterprise. enterprise. So I think more and more people need to understand and appreciate that people are coming up with solutions that are socially impact creating, but also monetarily they are sustainable, so that they not always rely on external grants, because grants come and go. How will the
Yeah.
business stay sustainable, right? Can we always say this, okay, if a grant ends, so will we stop working for the deaf community? No, they would always need our support and help. So वो understanding होना जरूरी है. And the second biggest appeal that I have for the industry out there, especially in Pakistan, is to create more impact investors who understand that, it's not only the fast monetary returns, but it is also about impact plus monetary return that grows. A social enterprise might not give the best returns in first few years, but then it's always a long-term commitment that the investors need to be ready for as well. So I've hardly seen any impact investor in our country, and I hope if someone's listening to this, they will like to get in touch with us, talk to us, and see where or how we can figure it out, or how we can have impact investment, like the first impact investment in Pakistan. Let's hope.
Well said, Azima. Thank you so much. I know you have another meeting to run
I'm
to.
so
Thanks for
sorry.
taking the time, and hopefully we'll talk again in person in a few months.
Yeah, I miss you. I'll come see you soon.
All right. Take
Thank you
care.
for having
Bye.
me. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.